Hey gang, today's episode of Vital Vinyl is brought to you by The Littlest Streetcar. It's a children's book written and illustrated by me, and it tells the story of a little worker streetcar, or trolleys as they're known throughout the rest of the world, who wants to be like the bigger, prettier, cooler, more popular streetcars, and through a series of events realizes he's pretty awesome just the way he is. It's a 32-page hardcover full color children's book for kids ages 3 to 9. Don't have any kids ages 3 to 9 in your life, either directly or peripherally? Then this episode is brought to you by Bigfoot Frankenstein. It's a 140-page graphic novel that I illustrated, written by Mark Bertolini, who writes a whole bunch of other comic books. And it's the story of the great whole lot of greats grandson of Dr. Frankenstein, who's hiking through the woods one day, stumbles upon a pile of dead big feet, stitches together pieces of them, harnesses the power of lightning, and creates a new best pal. The two hit the road trying to figure out who's killing all the big feet. There's fights with monsters, giant spiders, mutant rednecks. But then the boys, maybe they find a little love along the way too. A couple of ladies pop up in the book. But, so if you're not looking for something ages teen and up, then this episode is brought to you by Hide. I cannot show you the pages in this because this is a really messed up horror graphic novel. It's about like 150, 160 pages long. It's the story of one day everyone over the age of 18 wakes up and just wants to murder the hell out of everyone under the age of 18. So yeah, it's got like a group of kids that kind of band together and try and fight off all the crazy grown-ups. Grown-ups aren't really crazy when they're just by themselves, but when they see like a kid, they just go banana balls and just want to, slaughter them till there's no more slaughtering to be done. So yep. Littlest Streetcar. Bigfoot Frankenstein. And Hide. You can find them all on my website, vernondraws.com, or on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Google search for local shops in your area. So do it. Perfect. Just in time for the holiday season. Thanks. Hey gang, if you're here, then that means it's time for another episode of Vital Vinyl. If this is your first time here, welcome aboard. If you're a long-time follower, welcome back. My name is Vernon Smith. I've been buying records since 1988. When I was a wee lad of 14 years old, mostly was into the punk rock stuff back then. And I collected records until 2005 when Hurricane Katrina came and rained down devastation and flooded out my records. And I was like, I'm not going to start this again at 30. So here I am at 48, starting it again. I've picked up some albums over the years since then, but finally got a record player a few months ago for the first time in almost 20 years, and been buying records too. So going through the ones that I do have just for the heck of it. They're pretty much what I listen to whenever I'm working, which is drawing. So yeah, that's a little wrap up to catch you up to speed. Today, we are going alphabetically, as always, and we're going to discuss a band that's actually kind of two bands. So you're kind of getting a 2-for-1, but you're also getting a 1-for-1. What does that mean? What could it mean? Well, it is Foxborough Hot Tubs. Stop, Drop, and Roll is the name of the album. And these guys are the side project of another band called Green Day. Yeah, and I've got two of their albums, American Idiot and the follow-up, kind of a sequel, 21st Century Breakdown. So first, Foxborough Hot Tubs. It's kind of like if Green Day was a 60s garage rock band. The album itself even like has it's like distressed looking, even though it's perfectly smooth and in mint condition, like, you know, little fades here, but it's, yeah, perfectly fine. The yellowing of the glue, but it's not really, it's perfectly smooth, the faded photos and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a pretty cute little gimmick. But yeah, some of the songs are even the music is just straight up, like the music part of it is basically swiped from songs back in the 60s. Like, God, I guess I should have prepped for this, but I know one of them sounds just like Stepping Stone, like the music is the same for Stepping Stone. Another one, Alligator, is Girl, You Really Got Me Going by the Kinks, whatever the exact name of the song is, but you know, you get the idea. They only put out one album of this, so I've read things that say if you got like the Green Day trilogy, which if you didn't, okay, like it shouldn't have been 3 records. I personally took the best of them, of those 3 records, and made my own single record, which I'm sure I'm not the first to do that. And I call it like the 3 solo records were Uno, Dos, and Tre, and I called mine Quattro because but yeah, they said that like Dos was basically the only Foxborough Hot Tubs album that they'll do again. Like it's kind of a Foxborough Hot Tubs type album. But yeah, so that kind of sucks a little because I did like this. It was a cool project, and I wouldn't mind seeing them doing more of that. They did come here and play as these guys. I did not get a chance to see it because I was working a real job back in those days. So I couldn't go. But I have seen these boys quite a few times. Pre-Katrina, I had pretty much all of their albums on vinyl. I got into them right after the Kerplunk album came out, which they came and played, and my buddy Taj and his girlfriend at the time, they were going, and for some reason I couldn't go to that one. But apparently everyone in the city went to that show, probably because they got really big a couple of years later, and so everyone wanted to say that they were at that show, but they probably weren't really at that show. But yeah, so I'll be the one to admit that I wasn't at that show. I missed it. I heard a lot about it. Heard it was cool. But yeah, I really liked that album, and then I ended up picking up 39 Smooth later, and wasn't as big a fan of that as I was Kerplunk, but it did have one of my favorite songs that they've ever done, which even after 30 something years I'm still gonna butcher the pronunciation of it, but it's Going to Palaskaguaka. But yeah, haven't been able to find either of those 2 albums on vinyl for a decent price, which kind of sucks. I mean, I guess because Lookout went out of business, but I mean, Reprise could still reissue them. Just keep the things in print. It doesn't have to be, you can have limited edition prints and then just do like a basic print for people that just like the format. Some people. But, and you may be thinking, oh wait, if you have that in your hand, how do you have it behind you as well? Well, that is a different pressing. That's a limited edition. Barnes and Noble pressing, I believe. They did like 2,000 copies of. This one's mine. That's on black vinyl. That one is my daughter's. It was mine, but I gave it to her just so she could have something that's, kind of a valuable. I think it's like a $40-$50 record. Or I think it's like a 50, and this one's normally like. No, this one I got for like under 30. I don't know. It's worth a little bit more than a regular record, but personally, I've found some of it on, like, it sounded kind of warped. Not like noticeable, but for some reason, like, my ear kind of picks stuff like that up sometimes, especially if it's something I've heard like over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, which is this album, because I really, really like it a lot. But yeah, so I like this pressing better than that one, and she likes the album too. She's been a fan of it ever since she was a little kid, so I was like, yeah, there you go. She was like, cool. But yeah, it's cool. It's like silver. It looks more gray, but it says silver. And this one I believe is just on black, but they're both double albums, got like posters and stuff in them. And hopefully I'll be picking up their earlier albums, which I had before. Like, I know I see Dookie around for like $20. Great album. Insomniac is still out, and the 25th anniversary edition looks pretty cool too. Nimrod, I'm kind of Warning, I really, really like as well. But that one apparently is out of print, even though it's had like 10 pressings of it. I did end up actually seeing these guys. Like, I missed the Kerplunk tour, but I caught them again like a year or two later. It was like right when Dookie came out, but they were still playing, like clubs and bars and stuff. So they played this music club, Tipitina's, which is a bar. Like, it's not a huge place. It's a famous place. Like, a lot of bands play there. From like, like New Orleans type jazz and stuff like that, but also like punk bands play there. Like, I saw Bad Religion there, Bad Brains, and yeah, Green Day was there. Tilt opened up for them, which was really cool. But yeah, it was like, I guess right when Dookie came out, so there was like a bunch of college frat boys there, a bunch of backwards baseball hats, and it was like pretty packed, but it was just like, all these dudes just kind of like standing around because they didn't know what a pit was. And I remember like being in a pit and it was like hot as hell. But Cinderblock, the singer of Tilt, like, she had like a bottle of water and she just like kind of threw it out into the crowd, and like I just jumped up and the whole thing like splashed on me, and she was like, gotcha, and I'm like, fucking right you did. But yeah, it was cool. We shared a moment. But yeah, and then saw him again a few years later, and this was like an arena tour. But the Riverdales opened up for him, which is the alter ego of Screeching Weasel. But they were doing like more. They were saying that it was like more Ramones style, but all that 3-chord punk stuff is Ramones style anyway. But yeah, so Green Day was still like taking Lookout bands on tour with them, which was cool, and nobody knew who the Riverdales were. I had their first album, and so I was really excited about it. And I'd never seen Screeching Weasel before. They had played like once here before, but I'd missed the show. And yeah, so it was cool seeing them, and like I remember like Ben Weasel's up there, talking right before a song, and he's like, "This next one is dedicated to No Doubt and Oasis," and just like naming all these like Smashing Pumpkins, like bands at the time that were like huge, and everyone in the crowd's just like going nuts with each like popular band that he's naming, and he's like, "This song's called give it up. And the only lyrics I remember were, give it up, you ain't got it, give it up, you ain't got it. And so I got a chuckle out of that, out of Ben just razzing the crowd as he does. But yeah, and still listen to these guys, still get their stuff that comes out. And yeah, sometimes it takes a couple listens to kind of get, because, you know, bands get older and these guys are like in their 50s now, so they're not still going to be talking about like smoking weed and jerking off like they did 30 something years ago. But I don't know, they're a good band. Whenever they signed to a major label and all the punks thought it wasn't cool, personally I didn't have a problem with it. I felt I couldn't be as big a fan as I was, because there was that whole like, you can't like a band if they're on a major label. And so yeah, I kind of got swept up in that douchiness, but that was more just how I would act in front of people. But which actually, no, not really, because I do remember with these guys, like I was still supporting them. Like I was still, I know I was definitely still buying their records, and I'd play them. Like I don't know, but with Nirvana that totally did happen. Like I was like, oh, Nevermind sucks, even though like Nevermind's a great fucking album. I was like, I only like Bleach because that's the one that was on Sub Pop. But yeah, no, I don't know. These guys rock. A lot of people might hate on them, but a lot more people are loving on them. But like what you like. Don't be a dick if you don't like it. So that's the message for today. But so until next time, to the